What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today, Cassie and I are going to talk about the one thing that you're doing that could have the biggest impact on your health if you actually made the time to do it. Now, of course, I could probably make an argument for making the time to do just anything for your health would be a good strategy to start with. But before we get to that, our co-host for the day, and probably co-host for many episodes moving forward,
Yay.
Cassie Lapple. And I'm going to preface by starting with how I got you sitting in the seat. Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So Cassie and I were talking about how to start stretching, how she could start stretching herself to one of the hardest things I think to do in life is to think, which sounds silly. And yet it is a challenging thing to do, especially to take different ideas and put them together and mold them together and then spit them out so that people understand them. And I think so that you understand them. And so Cassie's been wanting to come up with, just start to develop some ideas and start to put things together. And you have come up with a couple ideas. We were walking the other day, and that's when you started talking to me about the stress confidence curves and the intersection and what's the perfect intersection and so on and so forth. And I'm like, I'm very intrigued by this. I don't tell me more. But so I came up with the idea to push you to either, I gave you options. We start doing this regularly on the podcast where we just pick a topic to talk about and we just start talking about it and then you get to talk through your ideas, or we start a blog. Which, now that we're sitting here, you're probably going, oh, I should have said the blog thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did
I picked the more challenging one.
Yes. Glutton. Mm-hmm. A glutton for punishment.
Yes.
Well, we also decided that on our hike this past weekend, which is what our conversation is about.
Yes.
So now that I prefaced how I got you sitting in the seat by essentially blackmailing you to some degree to start doing a challenging thing, which, by the way, give yourself credit for doing.
Thanks.
You're welcome. How did we get to this topic?
Okay, so I'll start with our new adventure series amongst the two of us.
Yeah.
I am not technically a local yet. I don't know when you turn a local, a year?
Couple
of years.
We have to look that up in the guidelines.
Yeah, I've moved around a lot. I don't think I've ever been a local anywhere. But so we wanted to try to get outside more and explore some areas. So we decided that we'd use a 5-hour radius around where we live, Northern Kentucky, and just talk to some people that have been to some different areas in surrounding states, including our own, and try to find some new places that we could go and explore and not plan. Another thing that's very uncomfortable for me. I like to plan a lot of things. So we just put all these things in a jar and we're just going to, on a weekend or even just overnight, we decided we're just going to pick like a week or two in advance, mainly just to find a place to stay and then just go and see what we can get ourselves into. So most of these trips, if not all of them, are...
One rule is, you already said it kind of, but...
No planning.
No planning.
We picked the first hike we did on the way down. I think it was like an hour out or something. We were in traffic, so we decided that was a good time to look. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yes, the emphasis on no planning, which for me is challenging, for Jerry is...
Supernatural.
Very much. If anything, I should make you plan something, and then it'd be like a win-win.
It would be.
Like you plan a day, and I unplan a day.
Okay.
It'll make sense when we get there.
It will. That would be challenging.
That would be challenging.
Which is ironic considering how much of a planner I am.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know.
In a different way.
I don't know.
Completely different way.
Vacations you don't plan.
No, completely different way.
So these are kind of mini venture vacations in a way. So most of the places we have chosen that are in our jar are surrounded around hiking and outdoor things, which we both love and enjoy. So this weekend we went down to Cumberland Falls. First time for both of us. The Niagara of the South.
Yes.
Niagara Falls of the South.
I imagine it is about 1/1000th the size of probably even smaller than that.
Still very cool. Still very cool.
Don't get me wrong.
Big tourist attraction. But the biggest thing that surprised us, we had a great time down there. The biggest thing that surprised, I think I made the first, and then you kind of agreed. We were there for 2.5 days. Again, big touristy area in the middle of the summer, which tends to be a lot of times people go outside and we were in Daniel Boone National Forest, so pretty popular area. So we did 3 different hikes, about, 15 miles total in 3 different areas, 3 different hikes. And in all of that time, we saw 4 other people hiking on the trails.
2 on the trail.
2 on the trails. Oh, I guess Friday we did see a lot more people.
Friday we did. I'll give them definitely the credit. We'll talk about one of them. Well, we didn't see those 10 on the trail.
Yeah.
We didn't see it, but they were heading that direction.
Yeah. So we made this epiphany on Saturday, which we did two different activities. Friday we also did one. So we kind of started talking about this on Saturday because we did a longer hike on Saturday. But we were absolutely mind blown that for such a beautiful weekend in a very popular touristy area, we had the trails to ourselves. And the trails weren't overly challenging, I would say. Most of them are pretty flat, some hills because we're in the mountains, so it's expected. But what we did see was there were a lot of people, but just at the falls, which I get is a big part of the tourist attraction. But the demographic at the falls was, we'll say, classic Americanized.
Yeah, very Americanized.
Americanized. Yeah. So, not an environment we have not experienced before, being around other people that aren't, as obsessed with health and fitness as we tend to be. But still, it was very surprising to me. There's tons of different trails available, variety of different levels, easy to hard. And everyone, the longest hike they made was from their car to the falls and back, which for anybody that hasn't been there, it's about 200 yards.
Give or take.
Yeah, depending on how far and how popular you have to park down the parking lot.
The comment that I made is people are circling around to find the nearest parking spots to go. Well, I said to hike, and you're like, Jared, they're probably not going to hike. They're just going to go walk and look at the falls and then walk back.
Yes. So anyway, it was, I grew up in New England where there's not a lot of, pretty much grew up in the woods. A lot of different places I lived, there wasn't a lot of urbanization and things like that. The place we were this weekend definitely was not urban at all. Very rural, which was very comfortable for me, but it's just very surprising. Again, it's kind of a second nature thing for me to be outside and enjoy that, but it's challenging to see that so many people don't take advantage of it. So we, again, kind of thought about this podcast. Jerry started off saying, this is one thing that is really right outside your door, depending on how you perceive nature to be. And it's one thing that can have huge, massive effects on your mental and physical health, but you might just not be incorporating it, whether you are doing it on purpose or just aren't really aware of how much it can truly affect your well-being.
For sure. I would say probably it's usually a combination of both, but definitely the latter. I think people just, because being in nature is a very popular thing right now, but you read it and you're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, being in nature seems like a good idea, but you're like, it can't be that beneficial, right? Like it can't be that beneficial, can't be that helpful in so many different ways. But unless you do it, I'd say unless you do it, I hate to use the word correctly, because then it makes it seem like if I don't do it with these steps and these ways, then I shouldn't do it. But that's not necessarily the case. But there are more effective ways and less effective ways to be in nature. Right?
Sure.
So I'm curious, I may have asked you this. You said over the weekend, and then you kind of just said it again, like this weekend you were just like kind of, is when you were just like, man, I just don't understand why. And it seems like this weekend was particularly like a time where you just kind of like were like, wow, I just don't understand why people don't take advantage of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where you've had, like you said, you've been in nature and so on and so forth, and you've gone on hikes and so on, and I'm sure you've seen some level of people just puddling around, not doing anything with nature.
Sure.
So why do you think that it was this weekend in particular where your eyes were kind of like, I just don't get it?
I don't know if I really have an answer for that. I think it was mainly just because there were just the percentage of the amount of people that were there.
Yeah.
And just not taking advantage of all of the other stuff.
Literally, like, just keep going.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Right. And I think the way they set, I've been to a lot of different parks and things like that, and I think the way they set up Cumberland Falls is nice because they do have a lot of stairs and different access points, which does put you out more in nature. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was so beautiful and quiet, and so, I mean, it was only a couple hours from here. I think I probably always felt that way, but I don't know what it was about this weekend. I think it was just because there were so many people there, and we were the only two people that looked like they had any intention of going anywhere on the dirt path. Everything out off of the concrete path. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And not to say, we definitely passed some people, like I said, especially on Friday. Sure. I'll go ahead and give the example of the family we saw when we finished our hike, which
this was Sunday.
Yes. Eagle Falls, which is across the way, it was another falls. It was a 1.5 mile hike there and back,
which was tough.
It felt like we, again, love to torture ourselves, so we took our rucks.
Yeah.
And I knew it was hilly, that's why we picked a shorter one to ruck, but it was legitimately going uphill, then going downstairs, then going upstairs, then going downstairs, and then you're at the beautiful falls, which is great, but then you had to go back. So
and there's the return trip.
I think at one time we passed a small kid going down, and we were like drenched in sweat, and he goes, how many more steps? Like 1,000? I'm like, it felt like 1,000,000. And I was like, oh, probably should not. The parents probably were not happy about that. Yeah. But
that was the girl who had the kid on her back.
Yeah, we were complaining about 25 pounds on her back. This lady had a 50-pound kid on her back on a backpack that was probably 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, props to her.
Yeah, for sure.
I was over here complaining. And I'm like, I should not be complaining right now.
Zipped.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we did see a lot more people on that, I think, because it is, again, maybe it was shorter. It was another tourist attraction when you got to the end.
I wonder if the perception of the length, like people just don't think about the perception of length.
Right,
versus,
like
the
easy,
elevation.
moderate, hard.
Yeah.
Because we definitely saw some people that were on the other side, North Cumberland Falls, but they were getting it done. So
yeah.
Power to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I think it ended up being harder than they probably anticipated, but they got it done. So, but when we got out, we saw, I'll have a point to why I'm going this way. We saw a family with 6 kids. 5 of them, one was still an infant, and 5 of them were...
Oh, they were all...
They were, yeah.
5?
Probably.
Yeah.
So Dad had an extra backpack for
6.
Maybe the first kid that, dropped down and needed a hoist up. But fit-looking couple, 6 kids. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think a big piece of this nature that we were talking about earlier is nature doesn't have to be... Getting out into nature doesn't have to be driving 2 hours and spending a weekend in a national forest. And nature can literally be right outside your door, or, we're in Fort Thomas, so like going for a walk in the woods or a park, or if you're in New York City, Central Park, there's places to find greenery. But like many things, people find barriers as to why they can't do X, Y, and Z. I can't work out because of this. I can't go on these weekend trips or this day trip to hike because of this. And I think one of those reasons oftentimes is having kids. Now, I do not have kids, so I cannot personally say, being a parent, I have my brother has 2 kids, almost all of my friends have kids, and it props to you all. Being a parent is challenging, and I'm not trying to take that away from y'all because heroes, honestly. But seeing that family of 6 kids just makes me think, like, you can build it in. You just have to build that resiliency into your children.
Oh, facts.
And I think, when I think about those 6 kids that are out there hiking, and like they just started the hike, so I don't know how it ended up.
Yeah.
Like the parents had like 3 kids on their back. I don't know. But my guess is that's not the first time that they've been on a hike or out in nature. Like, they seemed equipped, and they've been doing that for a while. And that's something that those parents chose to do probably early on. And then you could tell even the older kids kind of took care of the younger kids just from that small 5-10 minute interaction we had with them.
Yep.
So just like you said, making time for these things that we think we need to do or we're supposed to do or a doctor told us to do, you don't have to do any of those things. Reality.
Sure.
But if you feel like you actually want to do them, there are ways to do it. You just have to decide to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to your point about having the time, finding the time, and just being able to do it, like building it into your life to support literally the same story, but just in a different context. And I've told you about Sherry before. I don't think I've said her name to you before, but the girl at the gym who had 7 kids.
Yeah.
She had 7 kids, and she trained regularly 3 days a week. She homeschooled all 7 children, trained regularly 3 days a week. Now, of course, she'd come in, if class started at 5:30, she was there at 5:32, 5:35. Like, she was 5 minutes late. And then usually she left 3 to 5 minutes early. Usually. Not always. But she showed up. Like, she was there. So there definitely has to be there has to be intention to the decisions that you're making, which is a different conversation for a different day. And maybe it starts with changing the focus of what you're focusing on. Because I think you said an important thing just then about building resiliency into the kids. Now, I don't know if those two thought this part through, but if you do hard things, one of them being going out with a hike, and you're thinking about only yourself and how hard it is for you, it makes it tough and challenging. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna also do this because I want my kids to be resilient and I want them to be strong, then it becomes, I'll say, easier. Not easier that the thing's going to be easy, but to actually make yourself do it becomes easier because now you're doing it for a purpose.
Right.
Outside of just yourself. Sadly, we generally won't make good decisions for ourselves. Sadly. That is what it is. But we will make good decisions for things around us, our kids being one of them. And I say that because Sherry, why she'd show up is for kids. I know that if I don't show up, number one, I can't let my frustrations out. Like, I just want to come here, work out hard, and that helps me release some stress. So certainly for 7 kids, I'm certain that was a big part of it. But also she's like, I want to be able to move with them. I want to be able to play with them. I want to be able to go do things with them, go hike and go do stuff like that. And I know that if I don't come train regularly, that's going to be much harder for me to do that. So if you feel yourself making that excuse, which is what it is, I don't have the time, I have too many things going on, maybe it's just because you're focused too much on your own self and not putting a purpose to something else, or not letting some other purpose drive you to do the thing that you know you need to be doing.
Right. Which is fine. A purpose is a purpose. Sure. So if it happens to be your kids and you're just getting the benefit out of it too, then great. You found your own avenue to get a win-win out of it. People shouldn't feel like because because they're not doing it. I think we just listen to a podcast. There's no right way to live your life. We're not comparing the perfect American lifestyle that doesn't actually exist. We all just see it on a TV and we think that's what it should be. But if it works for you and you're getting the benefit out of it, and you're also, whatever that purpose is driving you forward, then there's no wrong reason to do it. So if that is what motivates you to work out, if that's what motivates you to get outside, if that's what motivates you to learn how to cook, then it is what it is. You know, it doesn't have to be. The more you can find a purpose, the less you feel like you're just doing it because somebody else wants you to do it. And then you're just reversing all the stuff you're doing because you're just stressed about pleasing somebody else or trying to meet a standard that your doctor gave you. And you're only doing it just because they told you to do it. Then it's just kind of like going to weigh itself out, in my opinion. You're just going to stress about the thing that you're trying to do to reduce stress. So.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Let's talk about some of the benefits of being outside.
Okay.
So we were talking a little bit before that there are more effective ways to be outside that can, that can give you more benefit. We'll talk about that part specifically here in a second. But when you think about benefits of getting outside, what are some of the first few that pop into your head?
So there's physical and mental. For me, physical is the first one that always pops into my head. I usually am going to enjoy something like a workout or a walk or a jog outside than I am going to be inside. So running on a treadmill, staring at a TV, things like that. You're more likely to be outside longer, is my guess. I don't really know, because if you're on the treadmill, you plug in 20 minutes, but there's a higher likelihood that, say you don't have a time limit, you're outside going for a run or going for a walk, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to go for an extra 20 minutes outside than you are once the treadmill stops at 20 minutes.
True.
So you could, in theory, get more...
That's good perception. I haven't thought about it that way.
I didn't either until I was talking about it out loud.
Great thing talking things out loud. See, here we are.
If we were doing a blog, that probably wouldn't come to fruition.
Wouldn't that?
So yeah, physical, cardiovascular health, strength. Think about hiking. Every time I go hiking, I feel like it's such a physical equalizer because we train pretty regularly, strength train, cardiovascular train.
Sure.
Do workouts with our friends on Sunday. Yeah. The first 5 minutes of a hike, especially if it's uphill, I feel like I haven't worked out ever.
Oh my gosh.
I honestly feel like it's an equalizer of all physical health. My legs start feeling things they're not supposed to feel. I'm like, I do step ups, I do squats. Why is this so challenging? My calves hurt, my ankles hurt. So, and that's only the first 5 minutes. So.
After that, everything just goes
15 minutes and it's
just like,
I'm just going. Then I start realizing, I'm in nature, I feel better.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're outside, you could bring a ruck or you can bring weights, but just the natural layout of nature with, again, even walking on a sidewalk, it's not always perfectly flat, but walking, since we're using trails and hiking as our example, unbalanced things, walking uphill, walking downhill, natural inclines, things like that. So you're getting a workout without even knowing you're getting a workout. Your body's reacting a different way than if you were on a flat treadmill or you were just lifting weights. So it's just a different type of training. So physical is the first thing, but mental, I feel like, is the biggest push when people are now talking about getting out in nature and things like that. So reduction of stress, it's just a natural calming environment. We were listening to a podcast the other day about how everybody is just overstimulated all the time now, with technology being probably the number one thing, but we just have everything within access to us. We're usually inside most of the time when we're working. We're around a lot of people all the time. Nature naturally just takes all of that away. If you choose.
Sure. That's the hard part.
You can bring your phone. You can bring music. You can bring all of those things. And I think maybe we'll talk about this after, of how you can start incorporating nature. And so I won't jump the gun on that one. But yeah, so the sympathetic nervous system is usually what causes stress. So all the blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol, all jacks up when we get stressed. Most of us, chronic stress, I think, is the most...
For sure.
Negative thing that's probably affecting most people. So all of those things increase when we're stressed all the time. And again, stress could be an immediate and acute thing, or it can be chronic, which most people are experiencing chronic stress. Being in nature, a lot of studies have shown, decrease all of those things. And I think the biggest reason is because you're outside, and like I said before, it's a natural calming, and you just don't have all those stimulus around you. It just allows you to become more aware of what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're feeling. Again, if you choose that to be that way. You can make nature very not nature-y.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
Well, here's the irony. We are now at the point, we were talking about this on another trip. Forget what it was. Oh, to your brothers, I think. We're now at the point as a society where we're trying to create things to make our indoor more natural. Is the irony of all of this. But you gotta pay for that shit. Treadmills and natural sounds on your phone and white noise and plants to put inside and all the things, like all the stuff that we try to create to calm ourselves inside. We're literally trying to create what is outside.
Yeah.
Do you see the absurdity in it? It's like, as I'm saying it, I'm having a hard time saying it because it's so absurd.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who owned a training facility for a long time, and like, you're going to start a training facility here sometime, and I'm going to be part. So I get it to a degree. Now, granted, our training facilities are much different than Globo gyms and so on and so forth. It's going to be much more purposeful and intentional, but nonetheless, there's that part of it. So I view almost everything from an evolutionary standpoint, and very simply, the reason that it is calming for human beings to be outside is because for 99.99999999999 carry forward for a million nines percentage of humanity, we were outside. Up until the last, really? Humans became farmers 12,000 years ago, and we have been around for a million years. And when we were farmers, we were still outside most of the time. So let's even say during like Roman times, like is when we started to really be inside more regularly. That was 2,000 years ago. So if human beings as a species have been around a million years, and we've really been inside for 2,000, and it's still we were outside most of the time then. Like we've really been inside since 1950, 1940. 80 years. That's not long. Like that is a blink, not even a blink of an eye in evolutionary times. So it's very simple in my mind. Like we're built to be outside and we are inside. Now, to go along with that, there's all these other factors, like you've already talked about. Ironically, human beings try to make things as symmetrical as possible. We have houses that are nice and neat and symmetrical and so on and so forth. What seems to be one of the biggest things that is calming of nature is the randomness of it. So there was a study that I read, I forget the freaking name of what the randomness is. It's like the fractality of it, or fractal, I don't remember. It's some weird word. But like when you stare at an ocean, for instance, and like the waves, or like a creek in the waves, and the ripples in the creek are like calming to you. It's the randomness of the waves that are calming. In trees, you don't find anything that is symmetrical in nature. It's very hard to find something symmetrical, or like three of the same thing. If you walk by trees and there's three of the same trees,
they were probably put there
spaced evenly. That wasn't nature that did that.
You're in a tree farm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
You're looking for your Christmas tree.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like nature.
This is my plug for real Christmas trees, by the way.
By the way,
If that's your one time in nature, do it.
I look forward to us doing it. But it seems silly, but like that, like our mind, our evolutionary mind doesn't like the structure that we have. And I think that creates a level of tension just in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's like this, we feel this need to have everything just in this structured setting. Like everything needs to be symmetrical and like everything needs to be nice and neat and so on and so forth. Like that's why people with OCD are so stressed all the time. Like, because they feel the need for everything just to be, so on and so forth. But anyway, like it's the randomness of it that actually creates the calmness. It's like, I don't know why that is, but
I would imagine your senses also, they kind of get dampened over time. If you're inside all the time, you're seeing the same things, you're listening to the same things, you're the same lighting, your vision, your hearing. The biggest thing that I always think about is kids that have, and adults too, have earpods, earphones in all the time. Are they listening to something? I don't know. But if they are, a lot of times you'll play music, and over time, you're probably going to play the music louder, or you're going to have to do all this because you're going to keep reaching this threshold. And then I just feel like it's dampening all of our senses when you go outside without music, without your phone, and just listen and just like breathe. The things that you hear over time, I feel like you become more acutely aware of what you're hearing and what you're feeling. One hike we went on Saturday, this is a great example of all the things that can happen within a 3-hour period. I don't even think it was 3 hours, two and a half.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
We started off our hike amongst the Americans at Cumberland Falls.
The Americanized.
And then we quickly separated ourselves about another 100 yards, and then we were on the trail. It was like 85, sunny, slight clear breeze. Yeah. The biggest thing I noticed when this hike and then we went Red River Gorge, it felt like we were hiking through Jurassic Park.
Yeah, this one was special.
There are just so many. It's amazing to me how many different types of trees and things
and stuff,
and like the big rock. I don't know. We were just like little kids. We're like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Yeah. And like I said, we're 2.5 hours away from where we live in Kentucky.
Right.
Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second too. But
yeah, so we were walking the first half of the hike, pretty like up and down. We were going along the river for a while, and then I made the poor mistake of putting you in lead because the next mile of our hike, or it was probably half a mile, was uphill, and I have longer legs, and I've been working off a quad injury, so I'm not as powerful as I'd like to be going up hills. And I'd like to say on the flat, I can stride out a little bit. On the hills, it's a little bit harder. So short, strong legs over here is freaking what feels like to me a slight jog up the hill. So we get to the top of this hill, and I'm like already beat. But then as we're going, we get kind of this flat, we start hearing a thunderstorm. And I personally, we love watching thunderstorms and lightning storms and stuff like that. I've never actually hiked in one before. But like that didn't deter us from doing anything. We actually climbed a metal
house
tower
yeah,
to get the view as we see lightning well within range of striking distance.
Yeah, we're like, oh, that's cool over there. Oh, maybe we should
get off the metal giant tower that's above all the trees.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah. Lightning. Oh.
So anyway, about 10 minutes after we got off of that, the storm is literally over us, and it just starts downpouring. So for the next hour of our hike, it is downpouring rain. Everything's mud. Like, it got wet quick. The thunderstorm was literally overhead. Now, I'm okay with thunderstorms. I don't freak out. But this thing felt like it was, like, right. Like, I jumped a couple times. I was like, oh, my.
Literally.
But, yeah.
Those were loud. Those, literally, they, like, shook the ground.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
So, within 2 hours, we experienced all of this different stuff. And during the rainstorm, honestly, was probably more fun than the sunny part because it was challenging. Once you're soaking wet, you're just like, whatever. But we quickly learned that within that maybe a half hour, 45 minutes that it was raining, your senses heighten so much because now you're thinking about the moss on the rock, the wet leaves, stepping on rocks, walking down some water. It's so deep you can't even see the mud, the slippery. So like you're tensing. You don't realize you're doing it because you're just so focused on moving forward and getting to the next part or whatever. And it wasn't until the rain stopped and we got to the bottom of the hill that we both were like, oh my gosh, my legs, my core was sore. And I was just walking and hiking. But I just feel like it was just really cool. I was smiling the whole time. I was drenched wet. It was a decently challenging hike. Again, we were going downhill a lot. But I was smiling the whole time. I was like, this is kind of scary, but kind of fun, and I just feel like you can't reproduce that inside.
Yeah, no chance.
Maybe that's
no chance.
That's a great company. You should patent. You just stand in a room and you just create all these, and you just walk on a treadmill, but it goes up and down. And I'm sure somewhere out there there's something like that.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it sounds downpouring on top of you, like leaves are blowing in your face.
But yeah, I just think about in that small chunk of time, 2 hours. So even if it was right outside our back door, we just experienced all of that adversity, being uncomfortable, working hard, having a good time, running into an absurd amount of spider webs, which I personally don't like. He's just like, oh, don't freak out. I'm like, it's on me. In 2 hours. And that's like insane to me that we just experienced all of that stuff in 2 hours.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So it's just really hard for me to think about something like that and trying to reproduce it any other way.
Yep. True.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll circle back around to is the sensory overload that you were talking about. Sorry, I'm going to play footsies with you for a second. But the sensory overload that you were talking about, and when I said in the beginning of this that there are more effective ways that you can be outside, that's essentially the thing, right? Is how much sensory input are you willing to set aside?
Right.
Part of that is you choosing to set things aside, such as your phone. Well, not such as, but it is your phone. And part of that is how far away can you go, right? Because like if you're in New York City and you go to Central Park, you still hear all the noise.
Yeah.
There's still a bunch of people around, so there's still a lot of sensory input that's going to happen, but you still get a level of benefit. So certainly would never downplay that. So, but you don't realize, and this is coming from two people, now you're maybe sooner on your sensory reduction journey than like that's something I've been cognizant of for the last 5 or 6 years, like trying to reduce. I've been a person that I've set my phone down for a week and people get real pissed at me about it, which is understandable. I've gotten a lot better I've had to get better at picking my phone up. Most people don't have that problem, right? So on my end, you're talking to somebody who has worked hard at this for a long time.
Sure.
And been doing it for a long time. On your end, I think naturally you did it anyway because you grew up in an environment where there wasn't a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In most parts of New England, unless you're in a city, there's not a whole lot of sensory input.
Sure.
Unless you're just looking at your phone all the time.
Yeah.
But you're not that kind of person either. So this is coming from two people who naturally kind of have that already. But for the average person, you cannot imagine, and even for us, again, two people who try pretty hard at this anyway and do this anyway, like once you're out in the middle of everything and you don't hear anything, you can't imagine the actual sensory overload that you are constantly bombarded with all day long.
Yeah.
Like even us just sitting here, we got the lights like blinding on us, we got the AC going. I can hear people walking from time to time outside. I can kind of hear, noise from the pool across the street. And we're in an office.
Yeah.
Like pretty much in a brick building. Like a brick cellar is pretty much what we're in.
Yeah.
So, and we're still getting a pretty decent level of sensory input. So once you get out there, you don't realize, you're like, wow, like,
yeah.
And that's the reason that why do people do it? Because it's freaking scary. Like once you realize that it's you.
It's uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've talked about even just sitting, for me personally, this has been a huge thing in the last year, is just, it's very uncomfortable for me to be with myself. I can be by myself. We've talked about this, doing things and whatever, but being by myself with myself is totally different. Like sitting quietly with nothing, no phone, no music, no nothing. That is super, super uncomfortable. And I think that's a reason people rely on their music or people rely on their phone, because it's comforting, because being with yourself is very uncomfortable.
For sure.
And being in nature, I think, is very uncomfortable too if you're not used to, like we just talked about, the spider webs, the terrain is questionable. If you have, like, even for me, it was uncomfortable when I first had my quad injury. We went on a hike, and it was probably the most mentally challenging hike, because I was constantly like, I don't want to step wrong because it'll hurt. Like I was anticipating something that probably wouldn't have happened, but I was giving myself that stress, and that whole hike, I don't want to say it was worthless, but it was more of like an eye-opener for me, that, which again, maybe another benefit of nature and just being out there, because I wouldn't have put all of those things together if I was listening to music, because I would have just been focused on the music. I would have been listening to how my body was feeling, what I was feeling, and why. And I don't think it was until the end of the hike, because I was getting very, very frustrated. We were tired because we went way longer than we thought we were going to. And we were mildly dehydrated.
Yeah.
But I was frustrated because I was more tired than I should have been. And it took away from the whole reason we even went in the first place. And that was frustrating to me. So,
well, you felt lost. Like there were these compounding effects.
Yeah. I usually am pretty good with where I'm being on trails and my bearings in nature. And that was one of the first times in a long time that I lost my bearings. And that also was very uncomfortable, which I can imagine. I've been in nature a lot. So I can imagine for people that have never been in nature and not being on a very well-marked trail, it's very uncomfortable. Because then you're like, well, am I lost? Like,
yeah.
And so I totally understand why people, if that is the barrier for you, I get it. Mm-hmm. It is uncomfortable. But like you were saying, when you start, if you do want to incorporate nature, it doesn't have to be just like anything. You can slowly progress into it. We're not saying, all right, in order to incorporate nature, you have to go for a weekend trip to a national forest. That it's start small, like go outside for 5 minutes. And if that's not a normal thing, and maybe you do bring your music, but at least you're doing outside instead of, normally on my lunch break, I walk on the treadmill for 15 minutes. Try walking outside for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. And then the next step, maybe you do it without music. So you still bring your phone. I'm fine. Like we always have a phone with us, because worst case scenario, you need to call somebody, or we taken it out a couple times to take pictures, which is part of the experience as well. But I remember after we took our picture of the fall, I was like, all right, one more picture, and then phone's going away.
Yep.
And it helps. Obviously, I used to hike a lot by myself, so having a phone also was good for me because I was by myself. And then also my mom and whoever I told where I was going, if something were to happen, hopefully you have service, but you have your phone. But that doesn't mean you have to be playing music off of it. You don't have to have it
scrolling.
Yeah, you don't have to be filming everything, which I've had hikes like that. Like, it's beautiful. You want to take pictures of it, but you have to weigh on certain trips that you maybe only going to do one time, take pictures of it. But if we're going on a walk and you're going in the woods, what are you taking pictures of?
Yeah.
So again, it's a slow, you don't feel like you have to go in order to get nature into your life, you don't have to go on an hour hike every day. You don't have to make a weekend trip out of it. You can start small and then slowly work your way to not listening to music, or going in the woods instead of just going down the sidewalk, or, making a trip, or going with somebody on a day trip, because, we hike together. We're not talking the whole time, because I think we both enjoy the peace and quiet of nature. But we definitely have a good time. Like, we're laughing, or when I run into spider webs, he laughs, I freak out. It's great.
Or when you jump on me whenever it thunders real loud.
Yeah, exactly.
I enjoy that.
But yeah, so, and he was saying about, like, people that live in New York. I always use New York or Boston as an example. Super dense populated. Washington, D.C., East Coast tends to be a little more condensed. But Atlanta, places like that, an hour, 2 hours at the most, you can drive somewhere and find a national forest. I looked it up earlier because I was curious about it. There's a little over 150 national forests, and that's just national forests. So that doesn't include just forests in your area, or state parks, or
park,
so for the most part, other than the middle of the country, which there are just no forests, it's just flat, which there are national grasslands. Didn't know that, but in case you want to walk through a grassland, that's also nature. You're within driving distance of a place that you might not even know. We've been to a couple places. I've talked to people that have lived in this area for 8, 10, 15 years and have never been to Red River Gorge, never been to Cumberland Falls.
I've never been to Red River Gorge. I've been here for 20 years.
It's crazy how beautiful things can be, and you just don't know it's out there because you are choosing not to build it into your life, or you just never really thought about it, or you can't. I have kids, I can't go. I have a work schedule, I can't go. But it's just like with working out. It's just like with anything you want to build into your life. You have to build it and schedule it in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like I said, it's kind of the feeling of the doing of the thing, but like literally Red River Gorge, we went down Friday afternoon and came back
the next day,
Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And it felt like we did a lot.
Yeah. We got 2 solid hikes in.
Yeah.
We drove right to a trailhead, got a 6.5 mile hike.
Yeah,
that first day.
Yeah, right out the car.
Spent the night in a really awesome cabin in the middle of the woods. It was quiet. We could hear. I mean, it was the same as this weekend. Like, even just being in the place we were staying, sitting outside on the porch, that technically we're inside, not really inside. We're inside and outside at the same time. But like, we weren't playing music. We didn't have the TV on.
Yep.
We're just listening and just sitting there. So even just that is a great way.
Yep.
Like, if you're used to coming home at night and turning the TV on, open a window or sit outside for 10 minutes and just listen. Right. Hear what you hear. You might not even know, like, around your house. There could be tons of nature around your house. You just don't know because you're in this routine of coming home, doing this, being inside, but just sit outside for 5 minutes.
Right. Well, we live in an apartment complex, and first thing in the morning, what do?
Open the door.
Open the door.
Yeah.
And what do we hear?
Birds.
So, now granted, you hear a little bit of car and this, that, and the other thing, and people getting in their cars starting and whatnot, but primarily what we hear is birds chirping. And so, like, again, probably, unless you're in New York City or some, like, super densely packed area, if you open your door, like, that's what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
You're going to hear nature.
Right.
Wind and birds is what you're going to hear. And it's amazing how even that, you train yourself to just listen to that, how much calmer you become, how much your stress becomes reduced, how much you get okay with yourself. Like, as tough as that is for people to accept, like, the reason we distract ourselves is because we don't want to talk, we don't want to look at ourselves. That's hard to accept. Yeah. Right? This comes from 2 people who have had to go through it, like, and still continue, like, still have a hard time from time to time, for sure. So it's not a judgmental thing. It just is what it is. Like, we just have a hard time looking at ourselves. And so we scroll, or we listen, or we, whatever, like, we have whatever we can do. But it gets easier, and you get to purposely enjoy life, which I think is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nature.
Nature. It's fun. All right. Well, I think we talked about pretty well how to get into and start doing things. Yeah, I think you just got to start with something simple. Like, just don't overwhelm yourself. Don't overthink it. When you feel the urge to sit down on the couch or go on a treadmill, even if it's raining, like, get over yourself for a second.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, it's rain.
Yeah.
When you get in the shower, you get wet. It's fine. And just go outside and just be outside. And then schedule a thing. Like you said, you got to schedule it. You can easily tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week. Like, just schedule a one-night trip, a place that's 90 minutes away.
Yeah.
You can find a place for sure that's 90 minutes away from you that's a forest for the most part.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. It literally, I think I literally during our hike felt like I was not in Kentucky. I was like transported. Like I said, I keep using Jurassic Park mainly because there were these big trees with these big ass leaves, and I was like, "That reminds me of Jurassic Park." Actually, there was a lot of Jurassic Park references from the original movie, not like Jurassic Park 7 or however many they've come out with. But you'll surprise yourself. Like he said, he's lived in this area forever. And Red River Gorge and Cumberland Falls are pretty popular touristy areas. Never been.
Nope.
But they were 2 hours away.
Yep.
Which, 2-hour drive, not that bad.
Pretty easy.
Not that bad.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. So I think we were very surprised. Not that far away. And you just kind of transport yourself. I think the other thing, too, is we used to live in a house that didn't really have a lot of service. And I always use it as a reference because we'd have friends that come and visit. And like we didn't have great service at our cabin.
Yeah.
Especially if you're with your family. Work it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, those things that you think you need to check every 5 minutes or whatever, it's gonna be okay. Yeah. And that's another thing. It's uncomfortable not to have a service. We're so used to having contact with people and connection all the time. But my friends were kind of forced. They just weren't able to use their phones because we just didn't have a lot of service. And every friend that came and visited, one of the first things or one of the things they would say as they were leaving is like, wow, that was so relaxing because my phone, I just wasn't on my phone.
Yeah.
Something so simple. And we lived in the woods. So again, maybe the nature thing, but something as simple as literally the phone just taken away from them because of lack of service. Yeah. Nothing burned down. They were with their significant other, so it was totally fine. Yeah. And they didn't have, but it was just amazing how everybody, that's one of the things that they say because, and then they go home and probably go back to their normal routine, but in a short weekend, you can get rejuvenated simply by just not having service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. Okay.
Ready, break.
Yes.
Thanks.
See, just gotta get you talking and everything's just fine.
Yeah.
Yep. You forgot there was a camera sitting there watching. See?
That's why I'm only looking at you. I think I've maybe looked that way one time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You don't want to distract yourself. How's my hair look?
Yeah, probably. 100% that's what I would be thinking. So it's better if I just look at this way.
Fair enough.
Yep.
All good. All right, y'all. Appreciate you listening. Make sure you share this with anybody who needs to get out in nature. Until next time, go walk somewhere.